So once again, my name is Margie Hunter, and the reason we're all here is to try to figure out how to calm the nervous system down. And you're probably wondering what that has to do with chronic disease. And we'll touch upon that in a moment and how we do that. But I'd like to begin by, give me a moment, I'm sorry. I'd like to begin by taking a few moments. I'd like you all to sit comfortably as you possibly can. But try to make sure that your back is straight, that your neck is straight, and your head is straight. The reason for that is because we breathe spontaneously when our neck and our spine and our heads are straight. And I'd like you to, as you're breathing in, bring your shoulders up, take them back, and as you're breathing out, just gently drop them. Place your hands in your lap or wherever is comfortable for you, but gently close your eyes. And I'd like you to breathe in through your nose and breathe out through the center of your lips. When I say the center of your lips, I mean let the breath flow through the middle of the mouth, the center. Don't give it a big, no, make it slow and gentle, a nice, slow exhalation. Breathing in through the nose and exhaling through the center of the lips. Take your time. We're in no hurry. This is part of the process. Breathing in through the nose and breathing out through the center of the lips. Don't impose anything on your breath. Just allow the breath to guide you. Become aware of the pattern of the breath. And as you're breathing in and as you're breathing out, be aware of the breath slowing down. That's what it does when you breathe like this. You're letting the body know that you're creating the space for wellness at this moment in time. As you're breathing in through the nose and breathing out through the center of the lips. Become aware of the shift that's occurring in the body. Become aware of the shift that's occurring in the mind. It's very gentle. It can be very subtle, but just observe it. Please don't try to make it happen. Just observe it as it's happening. And now I'd like you to visualize a balloon in your belly. As you're breathing in, I want you to guide your breath to the belly and fill that balloon with that breath in. And as you're breathing out, I'd like you to visualize deflating that balloon with the breath out. Breathing in, inflate that balloon. And breathing out, deflate that balloon. The balloon doesn't have to be a big balloon. Make it a comfortable balloon for you. Don't try to overextend it. Just a nice, soft breath. Breathing in and taking that breath to the belly. Don't let the breath rise. Just leave it at the belly. And breathing out, be aware of deflating that balloon, the belly button going toward the spine. Breathing in, gently inflating that belly, inflating that balloon. And breathing out, gently releasing the air from the balloon. I want you to observe what's happening in the body. That shift that you felt earlier as you were breathing in through the nose and out through the lips. may be more apparent now as you're taking the breath to the belly. Continue to breathe this way. And slowly and gently, I'd like to add another step to this breath. We'll be beginning at the belly as you're breathing in. And now let's guide the breath from the belly to the chest. And as you're breathing out, release the breath from the chest and release it from the belly. Take your time. Breathing in, filling the belly, and filling the chest. And breathing out, releasing from the chest and releasing from the belly. Observe what's happening in the body. Keep guiding the breath, beginning at the belly and guiding it to the chest, and releasing it from the chest, and then releasing it from the belly. Now we'll add one more step. Begin by inhaling and taking the breath to the belly, taking it toward the chest, and now take it toward your shoulders, toward your clavicle. And as you're breathing out, release it from the shoulders, release it from the chest, and release it from the belly. Breathing in, inhaling, and filling the belly, guiding it to the chest, and guiding it to the shoulders. And releasing from the shoulders, releasing from the chest, and releasing from the belly. Continue to breathe this way. Take your time. Again, it doesn't have to be a big breath, just a systematic breath, a deliberate breath, being guided by you. And slowly, very gently, release that breath and breathe in, filling the belly, and let go. Just observe what happens to the breath. Observe it as it rises toward the chest on its own. It probably won't go very high, but it doesn't need to go very high. Observe as you're breathing in, you're filling your belly, and then let go. Observe it rising toward the chest. And as you're breathing out, observe the flame as if it were a flame of a candle, getting dimmer and flowing down. Breathe in. And as you're breathing out, become aware of where you are. Become aware of the state in which your body is right now, this moment. And slowly and gently, open your eyes. As I said, tonight we're talking about slowing down the nervous system. And we have the ability to do that. We have the ability to have an impact on any disease we have. We're specifying tonight a chronic disease, but we have the ability to make an impact on it through our breath and through other ways. And that's what we'll be talking about tonight. By the end of this hour, you will hopefully have a clearer picture and some tools to help you to do that. That's my goal for you tonight. So let's talk about what a chronic disease is. A chronic disease, depending upon what country you're in, can be a disease that you've had or an imbalance in your body that you've had for 3 months or a year. Here in the States, they consider after a year of having a disease for it to be chronic. Chronic meaning it keeps reoccurring or it just doesn't go away. Typically, you're ongoing. You have ongoing medical attention, maybe on some medication, but it limits your daily activities. Those are the characteristics of what a chronic disease is, typically. So what do we consider chronic diseases? Diabetes, heart disease, stroke, multiple sclerosis, certain types of cancer, asthma, COPD, mental health. We can consider anxiety or depression because it's ongoing. It's something that it's an imbalance in the body. And the list is very long, but these are just some of the most common ones. Let's go into the causes. Why do these chronic diseases happen? So typically it's our lifestyle that we can talk about. We're always in a hurry. We're always worrying. This mind is always racing, right? And so as a result, the body's always racing. The causes can be environmental. It could be pollution in the air causing asthma, for example, or it could be chemicals that we use to clean with that cause allergies. It could be a whole host of things, but environmentally, or if you smoke, that can be an environmental cause for maybe some COPD or some respiratory problem. A lack of exercise can be a cause. Our bodies need to move. There's no question about that. And it's necessary that we be aware of that in order to prevent and also manage a chronic disease. Our diet is important. What we eat is what we are, basically. So it's important that we pay attention to what we eat. We pay attention to not overeating, but also not undereating. And pay attention to the quality of what we're eating. And sleep. We tend to disregard sleep. We tend to think, well, I'll catch up on my sleep tomorrow. Tonight I have a lot to do. And the problem is it's very difficult to catch up because tomorrow it'll be something else, right? But in order for our bodies to repair and in order for our bodies to stay healthy, we need to have sleep. And so it can be anywhere from 6 to 9 hours, depending upon who you talk to. But there is an importance to sleeping and sleeping well, because if we don't sleep well, it's very difficult for the body to maintain, right? And for the brain to maintain a steady, healthy environment. And stress, we come to the big S. For me, stress is probably the biggest factor, cause in creating an imbalance in the body. Now we'll be talking about that, but I want to read a quote for you that I read that was very timely. It was written 1940, and here we are almost 100 years later, and it is very relevant. And it goes like this. If you have never critically observed your reactions to life, if you are totally unaware of your subjective behavior, then you are unaware of the cause of things in your world. I will add to that, I would include health in that. That's my personal inclusion in this. But if you become aware of the state around you, the state within you, then you simply go about changing it. The author of this is Neville Goddard, and he was really a man that was way ahead of his time. He was very much about the power of the mind and creating health through that. So I thought that was very interesting that almost 100 years ago, and probably he was thinking it before he wrote it, he was thinking in this way. And we find that in Eastern philosophy, you find that much more so than we do in the West, but he was from the West. And through his experience in life, this is what he came up with. So I thought it was very interesting. So when we have a chronic disease, what do we do? What do we do to manage it? If you have a chronic disease and you're here, I suggest that you get medical attention, you go to the doctor, you follow your doctor's orders. Anything I say tonight is in addition to whatever it is your doctor wants you to do, okay? Anything we talk about tonight is in order to help your doctor help you. We have the power to help them help us. I don't know if everybody here knows, but I was diagnosed with MS in 1999. And I wasn't recovering the way I wanted to recover. I had lost my balance. There were a lot of things that I lost in my life, a lot of things that I lost in my life because of the MS. And I found my way back. I found my way back when we'll talk about it, but I found my way back because I needed to find my way back. And fortunately, I did. I'm now healthier than I was before I even was diagnosed. But my point is that we can go to a doctor, we can have a doctor help us with medication, with recommendations, but there's so much more that we can do on our own. There is so much more that we can pay attention to in our lives on our own. You know, when in that quote that I read you, he talks about being aware of this, our state, and that is one of the most primary things that we need to be aware of, is the state of our being around us and within us. So in all these years of wellness for me, in getting better, in researching, and in practicing yoga, because I've been practicing yoga for 22 years now, since I was diagnosed. About 6 months after being diagnosed, lo and behold, the universe provided yoga for me. And that was the beginning of my healing. But let me just say that in spite of healing, I've done a lot of research. I've continued to try to study. I've continued to try to figure out why and how, because that's just the way I'm wired, I suppose. But it was important for me. And it was important for me to be able to convey to other people that they too can get better. Whether it's diabetes, whether it's asthma, whatever the condition is, it's an imbalance in the body. And it's been given a name, but the bottom line is that it's an imbalance in the body. And as such, there's something we can do to bring the body more into balance. And by bringing it more into balance, we start eliminating some of the symptoms. And once you start eliminating some of the symptoms, then some of the other symptoms follow as well. So again, please stay with what your doctor tells you, but you can help your doctor. You can help your doctor help you. There's so much we can do. Today, we're going to be discussing the vagus nerve. I don't know if any of you, I'm sure some of you have heard of the vagus nerve, and maybe all of you have heard of the vagus nerve. But to me, the vagus nerve is a fascinating subject because it is so interrelated in every part of our body. Let me tell you what the vagus nerve is. The vagus nerve is the 10th cranial nerve. I learned this. It's number 10. And it's the longest nerve in our body. It begins at the base of the brain, it goes through the face, through the neck, the chest, the entire body, the torso, and the belly, and to the colon. Every major organ in our body is included in that pathway of the vagus nerve, including our heart. It controls our parasympathetic system, that system, that part of the nervous system that is typically called the rest and digest response. We have the fight or flight, which is the other side, the sympathetic nervous system, but we are talking now of the parasympathetic system. What does the parasympathetic system do? It brings relaxation. It's a relaxation response in the body. It reduces the fight or flight response, and it prevents inflammation. It improves your heart rate. It reduces blood pressure. Many, many wonderful things. These are just a few of them. So when we're talking about inducing a relaxation response in the body, we're talking about bringing down the nervous system. We're talking about allowing the body the space to repair. What happens? We hear about being in fight or flight, right? When we are in fight or flight, our body is heightened. Our body reacts. We don't have a lion chasing us, but we have a boss that's giving us incredible, unrealistic deadlines. We have a car that we need to pay for the repair, and we don't have the money to pay it. We have, all these problems in our lives, all these stressors in our lives, our body considers as danger. And so the result is we go into fight or flight. Going into fight or flight means that the heart rate goes up, the blood pressure goes up. There's a rush of adrenaline that goes into the body so that the body can prepare for the fight or the running, whatever the case may be, running away from that lion, right? And we start breathing very shallow. We breathe from our chest. And in breathing from our chest, we're not nourishing the body. What we're doing is actually creating more of that fight or flight, because it's that shallow breath that also brings on that response. So here in comes that vagus nerve. And that vagus nerve is part of the parasympathetic system, which is the natural responses in the body, but we can trigger that vagus nerve. We can trigger that vagus nerve so that it gives us that relaxation response in the body. So what happens when we activate that, when we trigger that response? The body goes into a state of rest and repair, rest and digest. It goes into homeostasis. And what happens when a body goes into that? It goes into a state of balance. It goes into a state of harmony. Everything starts working together so that the body can repair. It can repair inflammation, whatever. When we talk about inflammation is a reaction just like a cut. When you get cut, that area gets inflamed because it needs to heal. But what happens is if we have inflammation throughout the body that's chronic, that doesn't go away, then it starts creating problems in the body. That inflammation can come and it can happen in any part of the body. We can have inflammation in our brain, and that can bring on anxiety, that can bring on depression. We can have inflammation in our gut and throughout the body. And what they're finding is much of the inflammation begins in the gut, and we're going to talk about that. But it's really important that we understand that through the vagus nerve, we can bring down that inflammation or even prevent that inflammation, because we're reducing that reactivity in the body. The body is able to rest. Now, if you're a person that's always like I used to be, I believe that that's one of the reasons I got sick, because I was constantly in a hurry. I was constantly worrying. I was constantly trying to become and be, because I didn't think I was sufficient. I didn't think I was enough. I thought that I needed to be perfect, which it's impossible, right? But that was my goal. So as a result, I was constantly in a state of alertness and constantly in a state of fight or flight. My respiration was shallow. And many things, I should have known the triggers, but at the time I had no idea. I was just too busy becoming instead of understanding what was happening in me. So if we can break that cycle, when we're in that cycle of fight or flight throughout the day, then you bring that down and the body recognizes that state of wellness. Let's continue. We'll talk about how to do that now. Let's talk about, if you have any questions at the end, I'm going to leave some time for questions for you, because I think I want you to understand this. It's so powerful that we are able through different methods to bring our bodies into balance deliberately, that we can bring those reactions in the body to a place of peace and a place of equanimity and a place of balance. And it's such a foreign thing for us most of the time, right? I remember the first time I was taught meditation and I came out of there and thought, wow, where has this been all my life? Because I had never felt that good. I was always in a hurry. I mean, it was just, my body was always tight. My mind was always tight. So as a result, of course, my body went out of balance. But anyway, so let's continue. So how do we activate the vagus nerve? You're probably thinking, okay, Margie, so great. The vagus nerve is great. So now what do we do? Well, there's several ways. Acupuncture is actually very, very effective in activating the vagus nerve. Exercise is extremely important in activating the vagus nerve. Exercise improves the heart rate, the variability of the heart rate by increasing the vagal tone and decreasing the sympathetic nervous system. So what you're doing is you're interrupting that fight or flight and you're increasing the time between the heart rates. It also increases the digestive health by toning those muscles, the gastric muscles, for better digestion. It's incredible. The ability to heal through the vagus nerve. Now, there are several very easy things to do. You don't have to go to an acupuncturist, but we'll go with the digestion. You can take probiotics. They're finding that probiotics can help manage stress, anxiety, and depression because it helps with the gut. It helps the gut with the inflammation. And as a result, it's directly tied to the vagus nerve. What you eat has a huge impact on your digestion and as a result on the vagus nerve. So if you can keep your diet to whole foods, try to eliminate sugar as much as possible. You know, do the 80-20 rule. 80% eat well, meaning you're eating vegetables, you're eating, you know, the protein that you need, you're eating whatever you find that's whole and in season, and then 20% have your piece of cake if you need that piece of cake or whatever it may be. But as a rule, try to maintain that healthy lifestyle in your diet because it makes a huge difference in your body. So those are things that we can do directly. Now, one of the most interesting ones for me was cold water, taking a cold shower, or washing your face with cold water, or placing a wet, cold towel on your neck will activate the vagus nerve. At night, I've found that if I can't sleep at night, what I'll do is I'll go and wash my face with cold water, and I actually put it on my arms as well. And then I'll go get back into bed. And most of the time, I will fall asleep right away. It just activates that sense of relaxation, whatever was happening while I was dreaming or whatever was happening in my mind goes into rest mode and I am able to go back to sleep. Singing. Singing is a beautiful way of activating the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is connected to the voice box, and that vibration activates the vagus nerve, and it activates that relaxation. Massage, whether it's self-massage or professional massage. That foot reflexology, because we've got all those points on our feet that are directly tied to organs in our body. Massage through the neck and the scalp. Massage is very, very good to activate the vagus nerve. We all come out of a massage very relaxed, right? Healthy fats, omega-3 fatty acids, that would be seeds, nuts, fish. Those help the digestion. And that's something we can do at home. That's something that we can incorporate at home. Intermittent fasting. And you can check with your doctor about intermittent fasting. I'm a fan of intermittent fasting, but that's something that you really need to research and talk to your doctor and make sure that it's okay for you to do intermittent fasting, and then proceed with it, because they're finding in some of the studies that it's very, very good for you, and it activates the vagus nerve. So from there, it made me very happy, and it makes me very happy to say that yoga activates the vagus nerve. Why does it make me happy to say? Because I have spent 22 years practicing yoga. I have spent most of that time really going deeply into the postures, into the asanas, into the chanting, into the breathing, and really kind of witnessing what they did. But I had no idea about the vagus nerve until some years ago, right? But I could feel the difference. I could feel the difference that was occurring in my body. I mean, there was no question. There was no question that something was going on, something was working. And I couldn't put words to it necessarily to say, oh, it's the vagus nerve. No, because I didn't know that. But I knew that it was happening. And so yoga is one of the things, through the postures and the stretching and the compressing, that all activates the vagus nerve. And then in lying, usually in your yoga practice, you lie in Shavasana, in the corpse pose, and allow the body to assimilate that whole practice. Allow it to digest that whole practice. That's why, many times I'll say, I teach yoga, and many times I'll say, the Shavasana, that yoga, that corpse pose, may be the most important posture that we have, because it allows us to be. It allows us to rest. It allows us to assimilate and incorporate and digest all the postures that we've been doing, and it keeps us open to receiving them. So it's a beautiful process through the yoga. Now, if you're not a yogi, if you don't practice yoga, that's okay. There's other things you can do. If you're a yogi and you're familiar with the Ujjayi breath, Ujjayi activates the vagus nerve. It's a very powerful way of activating the vagus nerve. And so is Om. Om chanting activates the vagus nerve. I have some of my students are here today, and my teacher, my beloved yoga teacher, is here today. And the chanting of Om, no matter what the pitch is, it doesn't matter. Just the chanting of that Om brings a sense of peace and a sense of relaxation in the body. So now we have a scientific way of understanding at the physical level why it's happening. There's a whole other level to Om, but at a physical level, why it's happening. It's activating the vagus nerve. Now, what we did initially at the beginning of our session today, at the beginning of the talk, was breathe through our bellies. And breathing through the belly is something that I learned when I started practicing yoga. because I was breathing through the chest. Breathing through the belly allows the gases to be exchanged because it gives us time to breathe properly and for that breath to nourish the lungs properly. So breathing through the belly without even bringing the vagus nerve into the picture is very important. Now, let me bring the vagus nerve into the picture. When you breathe through your belly, you're activating the vagus nerve. You're putting pressure at the belly region, and that activates the vagus nerve. And the belly breath is the way we're supposed to be breathing all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's the way the body wants to breathe. The reason we don't breathe that way is because we've learned to become stressed and have learned to live that way and to take that as our normal way of breathing. If you see a child, a baby or a small child, you'll notice that their belly rises when they're breathing because that's the way we're meant to breathe. Our bellies are what's supposed to rise when we're breathing so that we can fill the lower parts of the lobes in the lungs so that the lungs can be nourished completely. The breath will rise to the chest on its own, which is what we tried to do at the beginning of the program, so that you could observe that breath rising on its own. But it's important that we understand that that's how we need to breathe to be healthy. And so if nothing else, we have that tool, that breath, to help us be healthy, no matter what the imbalance is in our body. This breath, in this way, will make us healthy. It'll enable the body to be in balance. Now, we do need at times that shallow breath. We do need that at times that fight or flight because we need to run or we need to defend ourselves, whatever the case may be. But it's meant to be a short-lived time. It's not meant to be lived that way 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's meant to be used, that breath, that fight or flight action in the body is meant to be used for short periods of time. So what we want to do is break that habit of breathing that way, of breathing in a shallow breath. And the belly breath, conscious belly breathing, will do that. If we can, let's say, for example, if you were to wake up in the morning and be conscious of your breath, and then you go in, brush your teeth, do whatever it is you need to do, and then in about an hour, check with yourself. How are you breathing? Is the breath shallow, or is the breath the belly breath? How is it happening? If you check in with yourself and see that your breath is shallow, then you can change it. You've broken that pattern. You've broken that pattern of stressful breathing. So you continue. If in about an hour, you check in with yourself again and see that your pattern is a shallow breath, you can deliberately change it into that belly breath. And what are you doing? You're activating the vagus nerve. You're activating that relaxation, and you're breaking the cycle of that stressful breath, that shallow breath. So it's really important that we understand the importance of this breath. I think those of you that know me know how much I emphasize it. And the reason I emphasize it is because I think much of my recovery, my personal recovery, was due to being able to breathe properly, breathing in this way. I catch myself at times breathing here. I think, wow, all these years and I'm still doing it, right? But now I'm aware of it. And in general, I'm breathing through the belly. And if we do this every hour on the hour, check in with ourselves, then what happens is the body just starts breathing in that way naturally, because it's being trained to breathe that way, because it wants to breathe that way, because it likes to breathe that way. If we were to do, for example, if you were to have lunch, we were talking about the digestion, right? The importance of the digestion. If you were to, before you have lunch, sit down at the table, or maybe before you even sit down at the table, you take the moment to take 11 belly breaths. Just take the 11 breaths. And then you start eating. What you're consuming and how you're digesting it will completely change. That food that you are ingesting turns to medicine in the body. That food that you're ingesting turns in like to this super nourishment in the body, because the body has settled down, the body is relaxed, the digestion is relaxed, and it can assimilate it and digest it in a much better way than if you were in a hurry, if you were worried, if you just take the time to mindfully make the space, then you will see a shift. You will see a shift in how you eat. You will see a shift on how much you eat. You'll see a shift in your digestion. And it will definitely change your constitution. So that's the breath. And the last thing, smiling. Smiling activates the vagus nerve. Smiling and laughing. Smiling and laughing activate the nerves in the face. Remember that vagus nerve goes through the face, comes from the back and wraps around, right? So the more you smile, the more you activate it. But smile with your eyes, really smile. Don't just smile with your mouth. Bring yourself into that smile. And a state of gratitude activates the vagus nerve. A state of thoughts of wellness, thoughts of love activate the vagus nerve. You wouldn't think so, right? Because it's just your brain, it's just thoughts. But it makes a huge difference. That's why meditation, and there's a certain type of meditation, all meditation is good, but for the vagus nerve, what we call the metta meditation or the loving kindness meditation has a huge impact on the vagus nerve. It will activate it. Not only will it activate it, but it will change your brain. It will change the composition of your brain when you think this way. When your thoughts are thoughts of love, thoughts of kindness, thoughts of well-being, it's that neuroplasticity, right? And there's a lot going on with that right now, but it will change the brain and it will activate the vagus nerve. So we are going to do a very short practice of that metta meditation. I think it's important that we do that. I want you to feel it. I want you to understand it. And I want you to become it. We're going to do it short because I want to have some time for questions and answers, but I want you to feel it. I want you to understand the importance of love in this process, of that loving kindness in this process. So if you would, please close your eyes and sit in a comfortable position. Try to keep the back straight and the neck straight. And just breathe for a moment. And I want you to visualize yourself standing in front of you. And I want you to visualize face to face with you. Become aware of what a beautiful being you are. Become aware of being actually a miracle. And understand that you're exactly the way you need to be. loving, the way you need to be. And I'd like you to repeat after me. Please, you can repeat it out loud or you can repeat it mentally. I wish for you peace of mind. I wish for you peace in your heart. I wish for you abundant health. I wish for you love in everything you do. I wish for you unconditional love. Allow those words to settle into the you that's saying them, and allow them to settle into the you that's receiving them. Now I'd like you to visualize standing in front of you someone whom you love very much. See their face, see their eyes. Again, be aware of the miracle that they are. And mentally or out loud, repeat after me. I wish for you peace of mind. I wish for you peace in your heart. I wish for you abundant health. I wish for you love in everything you do. I wish for you unconditional love. I love you unconditionally. I would like you to visualize standing in front of you someone whom you don't know very well. Maybe the teller at the bank that you see every so often, the person at the dry cleaners, whomever, it's somebody you see every so often, but you don't really know them. Be aware of the miracle that they are. See their eyes, face to face with them. And repeat after me. I wish for you peace of mind. I wish for you peace in your heart. I wish for you abundant health. I wish for you love throughout everything you do. I wish for you unconditional love. Now I'd like you to visualize standing in front of you someone who you're not very fond of. Doesn't matter why, you just aren't very fond of them. And I want you at this moment to take a look at them. Forget the history, forget the script that you've had, and just see them for what they are, the miracle that they are. I want you at this moment to leave behind any grudges. I want you at this moment to leave behind any judgment. And at this moment, allow yourself to say this with an open heart. I wish for you peace of mind. I wish for you peace in your heart. I wish for you abundant health. I wish for you love in everything you do. I wish for you unconditional love. Allow those words to settle in you, truly settle in you. And now, I want you to visualize yourself in a space, looking out the little window, down at Earth. Beautiful planet, that's our home. The only home we'll ever have. And from this vantage point, It's beautiful. The blues, the greens, maybe some browns, whites. And I'd like you to repeat after me. I wish for you peace of mind. I wish for you peace in your hearts. I wish for you love, everything you do. I wish for you abundant health. I wish for you unconditional love. I love you unconditionally. I want you to observe as we get closer to Earth. There's no borders. There's no religions. There's no judgments. Just this beautiful place that we call home. Allow yourself to come to that space on Earth where you are, in a state of well-being, in a state of health, in a state of love. Be aware of where you are. Wiggle your toes. Wiggle your fingers. And slowly and gently, open your eyes. This particular meditation activates the vagus nerve. This is called either metta meditation or loving kindness meditation. Meditation is very powerful in so many ways, but specifically because it activates the vagus nerve. Believing in wellness, believing that we are healthy and that this body can be brought back to balance, and taking the steps to do that, knowing that you can, is really important in the process of healing. Activating the vagus nerve is huge in the process of healing, which is why we're talking about this tonight. And I thank you for being here with me. I will let us have some time for questions. We have about 6 minutes for questions. So I'm going to put us on gallery view. And I will take any questions you may have. I have some questions that were sent by email. But if anybody has a question now, I'll answer that now. I think those questions that were asked by email were answered. And if not, please email me again and I'll try to make sure that I answer them. But does anybody have any questions? You have to unmute yourself to ask the question.
Hi, Margie. This is Sujata. Yeah. I have a question on how do, when we're trying to activate the vagus nerve to relax, which is the key to, which is in addition to what doctors may be helping us with, how do medications that we may be taking affect or get in the way?
Well, the medications are meant to help you. And of course, you know, medications have side effects, but I think here's what happens. And I'm telling you this from experience. you start practicing these things, and then you go to the doctor, and the doctor says, wait, your blood pressure is so much lower. Let's bring down the amount of medication, right? Then you go back 6 months later, and it dropped again. And he says, well, maybe you don't need anymore. So it's not that it helps, because right now you need the medication to be stable, right? But in practice, putting these things into practice, your doctor is the one that's going to say, you don't need these anymore, if that's the case. It's important that you continue with what you're doing, because you don't want to just drop medication. That's not something you want to do. You want to make sure that your doctor is seeing the results of what you're doing and is recommending that you don't take them. Are you following me? For example, in my case, I stopped taking my medication about 5 years after I started, but at that point, the lesions in my brain were gone. I was fine. And so my doctor knew that I was on my way to doing something. She wasn't sure how or what, but she knew I was okay. And every 6 months, I still see her, and she'll say, are you okay? Yes. And I promised her, I said, if I find that I need the medication again, I will go back on it. Medication has its place, you know, but you can take the reins into helping that, so that you can reduce the medication, if possible, right?
Yes. It takes one to take two.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Anybody have, Chandrasekhar, did you have a question?
Yes, ma'am. Anything you have heard of Parkinson being cured? And the next thing you mentioned about the longest nerve. What was the longest nerve? I missed the name.
The vagus nerve. And yes, I'm glad you brought that up. There is a study right now that's being done, and they've actually they have approved. And I'm not quite sure what the machine is, but what it does is it activates the vagus nerve for Parkinson's. They're researching for Parkinson's and then for a couple other conditions. But the whole purpose of this machine is to activate the vagus nerve. For Parkinson's, it's very, very effective. That's what they're finding in the studies.
That nerve begin from the head to the end of the body?
From the stem.
Vagus nerve.
Yes, and it's the longest nerve in the body. But it's, you know, in my research, what they're saying is there's so much unknown about it, but what they're finding is that it is so responsible for many things, because it touches every major organ in the body. So if we can activate it, and if we can keep that, part in a state of relaxation, if we can bring this body to balance, oh my goodness, what does that mean? It means that everything will be synergistic, right? The organs will start working the way they need to work together. There won't be that contradiction, that constant conflict. Quite the contrary, what you'll have is a state of well-being and harmony.
So the breathing awareness will bring the vagus nerve to be in line with the harmony of the body.
Correct.
Okay.
Belly breathing.
Belly breathing. Got it.
Yeah, the second breath that we did, you know, the 3-part, the yogic breath, that's very good if you have anxiety or you have depression. That breath is very powerful for that, because it pulls you out of where you are, right? And that concentrating and just being with that breath in that 3 parts, and you really feel a state of well-being in that. But for a daily breath, you want to do the belly breath.
Yeah, you just let it happen, the belly, and then automatically let it rise to the chest.
Right. It'll rise on its own.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Margie.
Pushpa?
You mentioned probiotics to activate vagus nerve.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about the pills?
It can be in pills, or it can be like yogurt is a good probiotic, right? Things that are fermented, but make sure you're not allergic to things that are fermented, right? But Yeah, but probiotics, because they help the digestion, they help the microbiome. And then you need also the prebiotics, right? That which the probiotic feeds off of, which is whole foods, vegetables, things that are good for your body. Remember, fast food is, you know, like I said, 20-80, 80-20. There's a balance, right? 80% of the time, be good, you know, do what the body needs, fill it, and then have your cake later. On the weekend, you can have a piece of cake or whatever it is. You know, we need that balance. But try to keep the majority of the time, of your time, understanding what the body needs.
Yes.
You know, the thing is, this body is always listening, always listening. It can't turn off. It has no way of getting away from the mind.
Yes.
So if when we're nourishing the body, we're breathing, we're mindful of taking care of it, you know, the same way we take care of our child, if we're mindful of that, the body reacts to that. And so what you create is a state of harmony, because it's harmonious not only mentally, but physically, emotionally. You're creating a cocoon of wellness. So, yeah, so when you're eating, make sure that you understand that aspect of it, right? Because we're custodians of this body. We're responsible for it. It gets us everywhere. And so it's important that we take care of it, right?
Yes. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Namaste.
Namaste. Naina?
Yes. Marji?
Yeah.
Very, very good explanation. I really loved it.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure what you told Chandrasekhar Bhai, the normal breathing is a chest breathing, or
No, belly breathing.
all the time it should be belly breathing, right?
Yes.
Okay. But
chest
like
breathing is
periodically we
I'm
take,
sorry.
periodically, like you say, and Soneji said, like every hour you take a awarefulness of the breath and take a deep breath with the belly. But if you are not aware, then also it should be belly breathing, right?
Right. The reason I say to be aware is to make sure you're breathing through your belly. Because what happens, Naina, when we're stressed, you breathe through the chest, right? And so many of us spend all day stressed. You know, we have deadlines, we have things we need to do, we're worrying, we're hurrying, and don't realize that the breath is all here. It's not a full breath. It's not at the belly, it's all here. So that's why we say, check in. You know, check in. Where is your breath? Is it in the chest or is it in the belly?
And the second question, I missed that third or fourth sentence you are saying, health. I wish you health, but I'm missing that word before the health. I wish you love, I wish you peace in mind, and the third or fourth sentence is
I wish you peace of mind. I wish you peace in your heart.
Yeah.
I wish you abundant health.
Abundant. Okay, that is what I was missing.
But
Thank
you can use your own words, you know, all the good things that you wish for you and all these beings, right? And when you're meditating like that, it just creates a sense of well-being. And it triggers a vagus nerve. So we're
Marci, I have a last question, please.
Sure.
Okay, it was a wonderful presentation, and there's a lot of guidance in this video, in your presentation. Is it possible to share the recording, please, to the group?
Sure, I'm going to put it on my website.
Okay.
And I think Soneji you were recording it too, right, Soneji?
Yes.
Okay.
So he will have it as well.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Audrey, I have a question, sorry.
Sure.
In the prayer we did at the end, the part that you have to bring someone that you don't like, basically. That I don't understand, because it's regardless of how we all are, and we're all different, that brings a bad, not bad, but uncomfortable, and I have to try to change that vibe. and be what you want us to be, saying, you know, to that person that what you were just saying to on all the prayers you were saying. So that is that necessary? Because in that part, my well-being loses its balance as I'm going forward.
Now, you're not going to want to hear my answer, but
Yeah, I do. That's why I'm asking
important
you.
one. Maheen.
Yeah, I know, but I'm trying to find a way around it, and that's why I'm asking, because maybe I don't really know what to do or how to approach that and be with it.
Okay, so here's the thing: when we are letting go, I'm not telling you that you want them to be your best friend. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you have right. I'm not saying you have to go call them and say, oh, no. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying when we do that, we're letting go. We're letting go of what's eating at us. And it's really important at a physical level.
Marjorie is not eating at me unless I start bringing it up. Otherwise, it's not eating at me, sweetheart.
Well, but it's important. It's important that we understand. And here's the thing. And when I have more time, when I do this, I'll say, forget the history, right? Understand that we all have done things in the past that may not have been the best for a relationship with somebody else. We don't know what somebody is living through. We don't know what caused them to be who they were at that moment in time. We only know what we're judging. So if we can release judgment, I'm not telling you have to love them. I don't ask you to say, I love you unconditionally.
No way.
I didn't ask you. But what I do ask you to do is be able to detach yourself and wish them well. And that's good for us.
Yeah, I try.
It's hard, Margie. It's hard.
I know it's hard.
It's hard.
But it's so essential that we understand that we're all these beings that are just doing the best that we can. And sometimes we just blow it, right?
We do a lot of forgiveness. Huh? We do a lot of forgiveness. Speaking keyboard or two not forgiven.
Maybe you bring your own disturbed personality, not somebody else. Individual can bring their own undisturbed personality. And so this is not me. I am a divine being, as you say.
Exactly.
You have to transform your unwanted aspect of yours into the lovable aspect of yours.
Yeah, it's letting go of that.
Yeah.
Because even though you say you're not thinking it, it's somewhere in your subconscious. And that's not healthy for you.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure.
And I know bringing it up isn't necessarily very comfortable, but what happened, Maheen, because I know what you're talking about. What happens is if you do it enough, there comes a day when you think, wow, yeah.
I've come a long way, baby. I've come a long way.
So,
yeah, it's just.
Let us not play hide and seek with our true personality.
Yeah, that's right.
All life along. And we keep searching ourselves through various means. We haven't yet found our real you. This is all some idealistic or some kind of a theory, but as Margie's is practice and see how she recovered from such a very terrible place to a real Margie. And this is real Margie. She was not like this before.
Yeah.
No, I was trying before. I was just sick.
Yeah.
I was stressed. So I get it, Maheen. I understand what you're saying. It's
That's right.
Some people find it very uncomfortable to speak to themselves, to tell themselves how much they love each other, to tell themselves. So it just depends on where you are.
I don't have any problem with that.
Good. All righty. I'm going to end because I promised we would end at 8 and we're ending at 8:10.